And everyone is here in person. Right? Well, almost. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of December 8th, 2020. I would a motion by Robinson. Do I have a second? Second by Jean. Is there any discussion on the minutes? I'm not seeing any. All of those in favor of approving the minutes can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 2, the director's report, and I will hand it off to Mr. Lindeman.
Thanks, Mary. This is a list of different items, so if anything, any questions that you have, Dave, Scott, or I could answer those or provide any additional information.
Anyone? Yes, Mr. Jean.
I'm not sure it's on here.
Oh, your mic is off.
I'm sorry. Have we heard anything on well 3? Maybe that should come up under a different place on their agenda as far as the EPA. I don't know where we stand with that.
No, we did get an email earlier that Chuck Aherns is retiring in January, you know, with GHD, and so I think he was going to try, from his email, he was going to try to get some updates on some of the ongoing projects, but I don't have one, Joe.
So maybe for a future meeting.
Yeah.
And chat
Yeah.
about, cool. Any other comments or questions on the direct? Yes, Mr. Robinson.
So you're doing the effluent, the PFAS samples on the effluent? And if those come back elevated, will you do some biosolid sampling?
I don't know what is it the DNR coming in to do the testing?
The DNR came in and collected one sample,
Yep.
and we haven't heard back yet.
Do you know what they sampled for in the context of that? Was it?
No, I have the contact information. I could forward that to you if you were interested, or we could track that down, but I don't know specifically what they were testing for.
My concern, I would hope we'd bring those results here, because if the effluent is elevated, more than likely the biosolids will have PFAS in them.
Yep,
And I think there are some potential liability issues should that be land spread. So I think we'll want to look at that and evaluate in the context of whether or not some pretreatment requirements might be imposed on certain industries if it is an industrial source, or whether it's general waste. But I would be concerned about seeing those results.
before, when they asked for voluntary testing, we were reluctant to do that because there are a lot of unanswered questions. And I don't know that they've made a lot of progress on that yet. But certainly at some point, we should be evaluating our biosolids. So, and maybe after we get the results back on this grab sample of our effluent would be the time to have that discussion.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that we would bring those results back and what we're finding. But I also think that we'll, rely on the DNR for direction as well on how they're going to pursue that as well. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of things and start doing things that maybe the DNR has different thoughts on. So I think, when we bring those results back, hopefully we'll have some direction from the DNR on what they're looking at for, future action as well.
Right, are there any more comments on the director's report? Questions?
Yeah, just a couple.
Mr. Force?
Eric, I noticed, for some months now, we've been testing for COVID in the wastewater sampling program. And in your report, they're asking that we increase the frequency of that. Is there any action that takes place after these tests are taken? I mean, does it lead to anything? Or is it just, they're just collecting numbers?
It was my understanding it was sort of a research study in part to see what the numbers might indicate based on the test results and on the prevalence of the COVID in our community. And so beyond that, I haven't pushed them further. The results are available. I included the website and I printed out just
I did look at them, and they're
report,
quite interesting, but I just wondered if anybody is doing anything with this, and if, I don't know what the cost is to us. I assume it's minimal.
The cost is pretty minimal. We do, they pay for the sampling and the testing. We have been delivering the samples for pickup. That seems easier sometimes than randomly having the UPS stop in and try to track us down to find the sample. So, but we've been doing that twice a week, and we'll still be doing it twice a
Okay.
week. It's just we'll have more bottles each time.
Okay, but they're paying for the sampling and
Well, they're paying for the testing,
Testing.
and they're paying for the shipping.
okay.
And the sampling, we have a big container, and he fills other sample jars, and now we have an extra sample
Pretty
jar.
minimal, okay.
It's pretty minimal collection time.
And then I had a question on the regulatory advisory on lead and copper. The statement that utilities are required to replace the utility-owned portion of a lead service line when a customer elects to replace the customer-owned portion of the line. Does that have any financial implications on us? I mean, we're encouraging these neighborhoods to go ahead and replace. Are we going to have to replace then as well?
Yeah, if we have a homeowner that comes in and says that they're gonna replace their side of the line, and our side is still lead, we have to replace ours, so there will be a financial impact to the utility.
Do you expect that to be large?
I don't think we have a lot right now, Scott, that do it on their own.
We're encouraging more people to take advantage of the program.
We are, especially when there's other work going on in the area.
Right.
But potentially, if we get more and more grant money, that could become, a fiscal impact on the utility that's significant.
Okay. And
You
then
have any-
finally, anything new on the solar study?
Yeah, we just met with Clark Dietz this past week, so they've done some surveying up there. We have another area that we want them to survey. It looks like we're gonna need, to do, how we wrote the proposal was, we wanted them to evaluate for 40, 60, and 90% of the power load. To get to 90%, they felt like we would need about 11 to 12 acres. And so they're going to perform some more surveying. And we are intending right now for them to come and give an update in February at the meeting with a short presentation and for the
Excellent.
commission to ask questions on an update.
Good, that'd be
Yep.
good.
Yes,
That's
Mr. Robinson.
Going back to the lead rule, and I noticed that the EPA rules are gonna go from the first liter to the 5th liter sample. Is that to try to get away from the bias that was there from the fixture? And look more at the lead pipe? Do you know what the rationale was? Because the first liter, it was always historically the first liter draw, and that would give
Right.
you any lead that was associated with the fixture. Is this an effort to try to balance that out?
It is.
Mhm.
They're trying to move to all lead service lines. So in the past, there was tier set up where you could do copper lines with lead solder, and they're moving away from those lines. So if you have lead lines in your system, we're going to be sampling residences with lead lines, and the 5th liter is to get to the lead line in the piping.
All right, any more questions, comments on the director's report? All right, I'm not seeing any. Moving on to item number 3, discussion and possible action on the private lead service line funding for 2021. Eric, take it away.
This is really an update at this point on the lead service line funding. Scott has been in contact with the DNR on this, as well as an email tentatively committing to the $450,000 that was requested for 2021. And I don't think we're gonna see that money until late spring, but in order for us really to spend that much money in our program, we're gonna have to start getting notices out here shortly. So it's good that they let us know that, they're confident that we'll get those funds. You want to?
I just wanted to follow up with, they did question our confidence level in getting the $450,000 worth of funds rolled out. We're gonna have to replace it just over probably 100 services this year, so it's gonna be difficult with the staffing and the plumbers and stuff we have in the area. But the sooner we can get it rolled out and start sending notices, we're gonna have to shorten our timeframes on responses from the residents, and keep going, so I just wanted to make folks aware of that.
Any questions here? Yes, Mr. Jean.
Have we spent all the money that we had allocated or that came out in the last 2 or 3 years?
We are very close. I believe there's probably enough funding left for a handful of replacements that we're using up right now. We have some that are earmarked for projects in the spring, and we're doing a couple, I believe, leaks right now. So that money will be expended.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's some closeout documents too that they sent us over for the 17 funding, so those have to be in, I think, in February, Scott. And-
February 12th, we have
Yeah.
to have our final request in for that 2017 year funding.
Yeah.
So we're just finishing up on 2018 year funding right now.
Any other questions? All right, I'm not seeing any. We can move on. Do we need any action on this officially, or are we good?
No,
Move
I
forward?
don't think,
Okay.
I don't think that we do.
Okay. Number 4, discussion and possible action on the water savvy decals for utility vehicles. I don't know who wants to hit this
I'll
one.
defer to Scott on that. Just a quick intro. We're launching the program whenever the city newsletter comes out this month, somewhere in the third week, I assume, third or fourth week.
It's going to printer this week.
All right, great. So we will also be starting to insert some bill stuffers. We will have some flyers available in the lobby, along with a large graphic on the water survey program, or water savvy program. And Scott and I discussed the possibility of putting that water savvy decal on our water utility vehicles. Go ahead, Scott.
And we decided just to bring it here for approval. I wasn't sure if we had an official policy for decals on vehicles citywide, so that I could not find anywhere, and we wanted to discuss the pricing. So I got a quote to make 20 graphics for our vehicles, and it was just under $500, well, $470
Sure.
to look for approval.
So absent, I guess, a policy on what to stick on these vehicles.
I would approve we go ahead with that expenditure and put the decals on the trucks. I think that'll establish even more credibility for the program.
Okay, we have a motion, second by Robinson. Is there any further discussion on this? I'm not seeing any. All those in favor of adding the decals to the utility trucks, say aye.
All right,
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
thank you.
Item number 5, discussion and possible action on the amendment of WMC Chapter 13 related to sewer rates. I think Eric, maybe you should.
Yeah, so if you remember at the last meeting, I kind of brought up the fact that all of our sewer rates are physically written into the Wausau Municipal Code right now under Chapter 13. And we were going to pull all of those out potentially and put them in a fee schedule. So that's what this is for, particularly for the fact that every time that the commission approves the rates, that there has to be a full ordinance amendment every time that happens. And so, so then, you know, that full municipal code revision then gets done through a resolution, goes to the city council, and to eliminate the need for that, then everything would be on the fee schedule, and we wouldn't have to continually update the municipal code whenever the sewer rates were addressed. Similar to how the water rates are done, the water rates aren't written into the municipal code.
Okay, is this a motion or question? Mr. Robinson,
So as I understand it.
you mean to turn your mic on, please?
I understand that it would require a resolution then to adopt the schedule or not? Or is this commission the final?
We have a city attorney right here, ready to answer any and all questions.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay, so as of right now, to add to add something to the fee schedule, it does require a resolution. And so Eric posed the question to me of, can we even then make that an exception? Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, right now that's what's requiring. And so what I'm thinking Eric wants to do with all of this is that since the commission already has the authority granted by the council to set the rates, that then there's going to be another exception to basically when the sewer rate changes, that the fee schedule will just be updated without a passage of a resolution. We would have to add some of the ordinance changes to the amendment that's attached in your agenda, because those are not included, those as of right now. But basically, that's what we're seeing if we want to do. It's going to be obviously, if you approve it, it would go on then to council, and then council's going to have to say yay or nay if they don't want to pass a resolution to add to the fee schedule. As you are aware, the authority is already granted to the commission, so it is, I guess, upholding what's already been granted, but we'd have to make another exception, because everything else has to be passed by resolution to be added to the fee schedule.
Mr. Robinson?
And then I had questions relative to the ordinance itself. First of all, I think that there's a typo in there relative to the Waterworks Commission Waterworks being one word versus two. But then I also question the current law calls for operation, maintenance, and replacement cost. Should that be operation, maintenance, and capital cost, both in the existing language and in the new language? Because replacement is only good for replacement. And really, we're looking at trying to cover our capital costs. So I'm wondering if we should replace the word replacement with the word capital.
We can certainly do that to make it all encompassing. I think we will definitely want to be clear with that, that the revenues will, so yeah, I'm certainly okay with that.
Question here.
Yes, Mr. Force?
Under this proposed change, are we losing any opportunity for public input or public review or public notice?
No, and also what we discussed was establishment of more of a policy manual on how we do things. And the next item on the agenda, we'll be talking about how sewer rates are reviewed and established. And so we can talk about those details. Part of that is a public hearing, part of that is public outreach, and how the commission wants to move forward with that. Yeah. I think right now, as Nate had said, that the city council has delegated the authority to the commission. By statute, the commission was also established to manage the utility fairly autonomously, and to be able to make these decisions. And the council, when they prepared and created the commission, they've delegated that authority. So really, I'm trying to establish, in detail what the commission's authority is, and so it's done in accordance with the Wausau Municipal Code and how it was established, so.
Okay, I saw Mr. Jean.
Just for clarification, we're not changing any rates, it's just how we manage it, or we're creating a policy, so it wouldn't necessarily have to go to council. So none of these rates are changing in this document.
No, they're not.
Okay.
No, not at all, no. This is really how future, right now, how if the commission wanted to take a look at sewer rates in the future.
Exactly.
Then, yeah.
It seems like it's quite similar to the water. The PSC renders a, what do they call it, a rate tariff or whatever it is, and we just accept that. I don't think that goes to council in any form or fashion either.
It does not.
Okay.
No.
So it's sort of consistent, but we get the rates from PSC, we implement them, and same thing here, although we do the steps of making sure the general public has an opportunity to speak to these rates as PSC does when they
Right.
implement new rates.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I saw Mr. Robinson and then Ms. Herbst.
So you do still have a fee schedule in there, but that fee schedule will,
I'm going to turn on your mic.
sorry, the fee schedule is included, but will not be part of the ordinance, but rather
Outside of.
as a note or whatever, or tracked elsewhere. And are these the same rates that we were dealing with last year? Are there any changes to the rates?
No changes to the rates.
So the fee schedule is located online or at the clerk's desk. And that's referenced then in this amendment of where it's located.
I think the other challenge is too, you know, when I get questions about different businesses on how they're being charged, when you look at the municipal code or you tell somebody to go look at, you know, it's under this section of the code, that's a difficult interpretation to find out where people are, you know, where your rates are. I think the fee schedule is much more simple. It's a lot easier to read as well. So I think there's a lot of advantage to putting things on a schedule versus having it written inside a document.
Ms. Herbst?
Rick, I'm looking at the Wausau wastewater user rate. Just out of curiosity, how do I know what inches my pipe is? How would I know that based on what the rates are going to be? For example, the first one says 5/8 or 3/4. The fixed charge is going to be $29.06 in July of '21.
Right.
How do I know if that's going to be my cost, or if somebody were to ask me, I would not have a clue because I have no idea the size of the pipes.
Right. So it would be the meter size
Okay.
that's in your home.
Okay,
On your past bills too, it'll be established, you know, you'll see what your current rate is.
Okay.
And so it's charged based on our records for what size meter was installed in your home.
okay. Then the other comment or concern, I shouldn't say a concern, where it says irrigation meter, why would someone want to install a second meter? Would there be any advantage to doing that?
There is in the fact that you don't get charged the sewer on that irrigation meter. So if somebody does a lot of irrigation, you know, seasonal times, and they use a lot of water, then they only get charged for the actual water. They don't get charged the sewer for that volume of water.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
At least I have answers when someone asks. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments, or do I have a?
Just to comment on Don's comment, I mean, it brings back an issue that I've raised before on rates and measurements and numbers that the public sees and I think generally ignores because they don't understand them. And I'm not asking for any action today, but I'm expressing my concern that we don't put out information that's understandable by the users. The same goes for the volume when we're dealing with the metric system as opposed to the system that 99.9% of us use, which is gallons. We tried to make that comparison at one point, Scott, and I'm not sure whether we're continuing that or if it was just a one-time notice.
It was noted, I'd have to check Jim's. To confirm that it was on the bills. It was placed, I believe, permanently on the bills, but I have to
Okay.
check back.
Okay. That's good.
Okay, Mr. Robinson?
I will move for adoption of the ordinance subject to the changes of the correction of the typo in waterworks and changing the word replacement to capital.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second by Herbst. Is there any more discussion on this?
John, are there any commas out of place? Do you know this?
If you're gonna write the ordinance, you might as well write it right.
Correct.
All right, everyone in favor of this update can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? I'm not seeing any. Way. This passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Just get back to my. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on implementation of a policy manual outline and policy 301, review establishment of sewer rates. Eric.
So, in your packet, I've kind of outlined, a general table of contents, for some overall, really an overall outline of what I envision the policy manual to look like. This would really be the first policy written under this, and so I have some others that are in draft form. But I thought it would be good to bring this one forward with the other ones, and just really get the commission's feel on how they are perceiving the, you know, the outline. Is there something else that you'd like to see, how things are formatted? And then obviously on the policy itself, if you have any additions or edits that you see on the process of review and establishment of the rates.
Is there-
And where's this going, Eric? Where would this appear?
We're it's really, it's gonna be a manual on file. And that way, you know, every time something like this comes up, we have something to go back to, and this is the procedure that we follow. If anybody has any questions or, and then we know exactly, you know, from step to step on what needs to be done.
So it's primarily for internal use.
That is correct. Yep.
I just wondered if, under 301.1.1 definitions, if there's any reason to spell out who is on the Waterworks Commission by class of member, but maybe not. If it's an internal document, probably not.
I saw Mr. Robinson.
Well, I had a question relative to the 301.4.1 simplified rate adjustment. So if it's below 3%, who approves? Does this commission still approve?
Yes.
So and are we reading that to be a 3% increase or 3% per calendar year? So if I haven't done any for 3 years, can I do 9%?
No, it would be 3% per calendar year. I kind of took this references from like how the PSC does the water rates. They can do like a simplified case up to 3%. You know, but no, if you,
Should it be calendar year or at one time?
I think that's what John's getting at.
okay,
So I didn't do it for 2 years, I'm into the third year. Do a 9% different increase is 3% a year?
that's not the intent.
But could we
Should we
clarify that at one time?
Yeah.
I guess would be my preference.
One time per year.
Yeah, or one time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look at some language on that, but it's not the intent to make it cumulative.
So we'll clarify that. Any other discussion here? All right, I am not seeing any, so I would entertain a motion on this policy manual outline in policy 301 with the addition of clarifying that no more than 3% at one time. Motion by Herbst, is there a second? A second by Jean. Any more discussion here?
I think just one comment, Mayor.
Sure.
You know, this is a document that the commission can, you know, request. Once policies are in place, if you want to make any changes, obviously, you know, I wouldn't say a living document, but it can be edited as needed if things arise, so, okay.
Okay, all of those in favor of accepting this policy manual outline and policy 301 with the update, can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All right, this passes unanimously, thank you. Last item on our agenda is discussion and possible action regarding proposed Virgin Power Solutions contract to maintain micro turbines at wastewater plant. I don't know who wants to take this.
I'll let Dave.
Mr. Erickson.
Okay. Our microturbines, they burn the gas that we generate on site in our digesters and generate electricity. And I think it was 2012, 9 years ago, that we bought those. And at that time, we bought it with a service contract, and the contract we had was parts only, and it was about $2,600 a year. And that's coming to an end at the end of this month. And so we've got some options, and I apologize, I didn't catch that all of the options weren't included in the contract that you were provided. But one of the options would, I guess I would look at the 10-year versus the 5-year, and I would probably go with the 10-year because we would hope to keep those running for another 10 years and not have to make a big capital investment to replace them. So if we were looking at a 10-year contract, we could go with parts only. That's what we've had for the last 9 years. Or we could go with the parts and labor, and then that'd be more money. And so we've been paying $2,600 per quarter, approximately. And so with the 10-year parts-only contract, goes up, it's $3,500 per quarter. And then the other option would be $5,000 per quarter. And between those, I guess I would kind of lean towards the $3,500 per quarter. But nobody has a crystal ball in it. We're going to certainly spend money on labor. I don't expect that the cost would be I guess it's a safer bet, but maybe spend more money if we went with the parts and labor at $5,000 per quarter. And so I guess what I'm looking is if anybody has any direction, but otherwise to get approval to take this, to have the attorneys review the contract and look at most likely the 10-year parts-only contract.
All right, is there any, yes, Mr. Jean?
So we were paying, is it, what did we pay this current year? 2,600?
$2,600 every 3 months, yeah.
And what are we going to pay under what you're recommending?
$3,500 every 3 months.
And that only is parts?
And that's, right, yep, that's just the parts.
Okay.
Mr. Force?
Dave, what do these units cost new today?
Boy, do you remember what we paid back when, Joel?
Well, I installed them, or my company did, but it was Cadorzy Construction, but the units were bought by the utility or by the city, and we just installed them, so I don't have a clue.
Sure.
So-
I'm guessing it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, a couple hundred at least.
So we've been under a parts-only contract.
Yeah.
Would it have paid to have the labor included or not?
I guess I could review and add up what we've paid with our costs. And I don't have that number for you right now.
And as far as parts, have we used the 2,600 to replace parts?
Well, part of it is a warranty, even though we haven't used it necessarily. And they have rebuilt them, both of them. So definitely we've used some portion of that.
Okay.
What they would have charged us if we didn't have the contract and we're paying them is kind of an unknown.
So you're recommending a 5-year parts and labor,
Well, I'm thinking 10-year.
I'm sorry.
I'm thinking 10-year parts only.
and that's
But-
3,500.
And that's $3,500 per
Right.
quarter. But I think much of that difference we're going to spend. So it's not, to me, it's not a difficult decision because it's going to be horse apiece at the end.
Yeah.
The one might cost a little more, but then if we had bad luck, it might save us money. So
And you're expecting 10 more years out of these?
I'm hoping so. With the rebuilds, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? I guess I would entertain a motion to accept the contract as presented.
Yeah, I would move that we accept Plan D, the 10-year
Okay,
parts, no, Plan C, isn't it? 10-year parts only.
we have a motion by Mr. Forrest. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Herbst. Is there any more discussion on this item?
I got the plan right. Plan
Right.
C.
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Jean?
My comment is the value of having this service, they should be operating as efficient as they possibly would if we didn't do anything like this. And secondly, there's a payback, but I don't know if Dave has a feel for the energy trade-off of us producing this power.
I don't have exact numbers, but you're absolutely right. They have to be running efficiently to pay for themselves. And that's been a problem in the last number of months. And I'm hoping they get that straightened out and get them running at nearly the 100% efficiency. They're rated for 65 kilowatts each, and we don't get that. I'd hope to get 5,500 to, I get my units a little bit mixed up, 5,500 to 6,000 kilowatts in order to make sure we're getting that payback for what we've invested in the cost of keeping them operating.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. All those in...
I do.
Oop, yes, Mr. Robinson.
So, Dave, would we be better off with the parts and labor if we're trying to optimize peak performance?
Well, either way, we want to hold them to maintaining that. And I think it's, like I said, it's going to be,
Are there service expectations associated with the labor portion of it? So if we have a failure, they respond within X number of days? And how does that compare with how they may respond if we only have the parts?
I anticipate it might be somewhat more difficult to get them out there as often as we would want if we're not, if it's already, if they aren't getting paid anything extra for that. But it's something we'd have to enforce either way.
So you're anticipating that the service would be slower under a parts and labor or better under a parts and labor?
With the parts and labor, there isn't as much incentive for them to come. Whereas if we're paying for the labor, then there wouldn't be a disincentive for them to come.
Interesting.
Yes, Mr. Jean.
Maybe the question is, besides the parts, $2,600, whatever it was, or $2,500, how much have you budgeted or spent, like in the last year or two, if you have that off the top of your head?
There was more money spent a couple years ago when they did rebuild them, obviously. But in years without that, I'd say we're spending $3,000 a year to have them come. But the difference would be, $1,500 a quarter would be $6,000. But then there was a year they came and spent more time. So if you would like, I could pull up those invoices and have those numbers for you at the next commission meeting. But if you were to allow us to review that internally and proceed with renewing the contract, we could do that.
I would support moving forward as the motion is stated. I don't think, did we vote on it? We didn't vote on it.
We didn't vote. We do
Okay.
have a motion and a second, though, so we can.
The other thing, I think Chippewa Falls has the similar units. Are you familiar with who's got the units?
Chippewa Falls is one that does.
And maybe any other ones that you can,
Sheboygan's another one, I think.
and then just ask how they're handling this warranty thing.
Sure.
Okay.
Plymouth is another one, yeah.
All right, very good.
Any more questions, comments? All right, all of those in favor of moving forward with the contract with Virgin Power Solutions as proposed can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. I guess I would take a motion to adjourn.
I just
Yes.
want to make one comment before we do that. John and I will have an agenda item on rain barrels for the next meeting with some options for the utility to look at.
I'm excited. Thank you. I had a motion by Robinson and a second by Jean, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.